Hi, my name is Matt. I'm on the Broadway cruise team, and the reason I'm here making the announcements is because at the moment I'm the only team member wearing pants. Yeah! 90% of success is just showing up. We've got a great Chatterbox Cafe episode coming up for you shortly, but a couple of announcements first. First of all, if you book tonight to do the teppanyaki dinner, those are at different staggered times between 6 and 7:30, so you should go and see Greg Kaminsky to find out exactly when your dinner reservation starts. And then the other thing is that if you were booked to see Rock of Ages tonight, that show was originally scheduled for 10, but now is scheduled for 9:30. Get there a little bit early so you can get the ideal seat so that people can spray beer on you or whatever they do in that show. And hope you all have a great time. Without any further ado, please welcome the inimitable Seth Rudetsky.
Alright, this is the Chatterbox. What do I have to tell y'all? Anything? No, there's another show right after this. So Mariah's show is at 2:30. Oh, wait, do you know where this is? I showed up at the theater for this show. Okay, so this is here. That's here?
Yes.
It's here. Okay, so tomorrow Audra has her own concert, but today we're going to get some inside scoop on what makes Audra tick. So please welcome to the stage, Audra McDonald! Planted.
Good morning.
Morning somewhere.
That's right.
First of all, what have you done fun on the ship?
I did the water slide.
Not the ground drops out underneath.
No, I haven't done that. It was closed. We wanted to do
You
it.
were going to do it?
Yes, I grew up in Fresno, California, and so it was like water slide capital of the world. We didn't have any culture, but we got water slide. So we did the regular water slides a couple of times, and then, well, the kids were at Splash Academy last night. My sister-in-law and I went to the slot machines, and we played the 1-cent slots. And we started with, she started with $5, and I started with 20. And when we cashed in, her little cash voucher was for 9 cents. And you wouldn't believe we cashed it in. We were like, we'll take that. Should we take it in a nickel and fork? Do we want 9 pennies?
How long did that take to get that amazing amount?
We did, it was about an hour. We did pretty well.
It's called addiction. So the annoying thing about Audra is that she always has concert gigs, like every 2 minutes. So she's not even going to enjoy the full Broadway cruise. First of all, she's married to Hunky Will Swenson, who broke up with me in my mind to date her. And he also, he's a Broadway cat. He was a star of Hair and Sloping in the Desert. I met him, he was starring in The Drift to Macau. But he has a callback for a Broadway show, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So they're splitting the week on Monday. So because we're at sea, they couldn't do the Lucille Ball helicopter. Remember how they see the helicopter? They couldn't do that, so he can't come till
tomorrow. He and my stepsons flew to they just landed in Bermuda about an hour ago.
Really?
So they're going to party on the beach today. Will and the boys, and then they board tomorrow morning, and then I fly out Thursday.
So they get one wonderful day together where she has a show and the hair concert is that night. They'll see each other backstage. Now, if you follow, you need to follow Audra on Twitter, by the way. Her posts are always hilarious. And the recent one was like, what is it? No, I'm not the babysitter. So what was that based on? She's at it.
I've had it.
Have you seen Will's children? They're like the whitest, most we're from the Midwest. Okay, go.
So Will's stepson, well, no, they're his sons, they're my stepsons. They're blonde, blue-eyed, blonde, and green-eyed. And if any of you've seen my little girl running around the boat, she's not the blackest child you've ever seen either.
No, when she was born, both Audra and I said she can pass.
She could totally say, when my daughter was born, she looked like Liza Minnelli, but like just in tiny form. She had like the full Liza do. Full hair, just like, and should I tell us the story about her being born and what the doctor said?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was on bed rest for the last 3.5 months of my pregnancy.
She really was, because we were going to do Dreamgirls. We were going to do a big concert with Dreamgirls. Even though she was pregnant, I'm like, it'll be fine. So she was going to not play Effie, she was going to play Dina pregnant. And then a couple months before, she was like, ooh, I can't do it. And I was like, lazy. She was like, flat out bed rest. Describe like what bed rest really is.
Bed rest for me, because I went into premature labor at 5.5 months pregnant. So bed rest for me was laying on my left side for 3.5 months. I could get up and go to the bathroom, and I had to get back down on my left side. You look at any pictures of me from then, it's actually very sad. My doggie, may she rest in peace, she died, she was 13 years old, but during those months, every picture is of me and my dog on bed rest. Every picture of me, my dog did bed rest with me. German Shepherd, just like, oh, bed rest, it's really bad. But my husband at the time, Zoe's dad, Pete, would, go out and do shows and stuff like that, and the doctor said you can't gain a lot of weight, because you're on bed rest, you're not going to get exercise, you have to be really careful.
That's the one fun part of
I know. So I was trying to be good, but I was getting really frustrated, and there was this wonderful burger place that delivered that was like across the street, and so what I would do is I would get our housekeeper, who ended up becoming our babysitter, Zoe's first babysitter. We'd wait until my husband would leave, and I'm like, okay, he's gone. Call Texas. Call Texas, and we'd get 2 humongous bacon cheeseburgers, and we'd eat them as fast as we could, and we'd open all the windows and burn the seats. So by the time he got back and be like, did you eat all of it? Like, yeah, and salad. Just some protein. Anyway, so yeah, quinoa. So the whole point of this backstory, this ridiculously long backstory, is that I was not able to have a baby shower, meet the baby's doctor, any of that stuff. So I had to order the baby's nursery completely online. I met the doctor via the phone and just said, hey, you come highly recommended. And he's like, okay, great, so here's what we're going to do. When you deliver, have your husband call me, whatever day you deliver, the next morning I will be there to meet you and check on the baby. Like, great, all right. So I went in to deliver on Valentine's Day, 2001. And we called the doctor. Zoe was born at 2:59. We called the doctor around 4 and said she's here. And he said, all right, I will be there tomorrow morning, and I will check on her, and then I will come and meet you guys. Great. So he comes the next morning, and my husband had gone home just to take a shower, and that was like the hour that the doctor came. And so he knocks on my door, he walks in, and he says, oh, I'm sorry. I'm here to see Audra McDonald. And I said, yeah, that's me. He said, oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking for the woman who gave birth to a Zoe Donovan yesterday. And I said, yeah, that's me. That's me. I said, are you Dr. Scope? He said, yeah. And I said, oh, hi, we've been talking. And he said, hi. Then he starts with the no eye contact. Like he's looking everywhere. He's like, well, I said, how is she? Baby's great. APGAR scores are really good. She's healthy weight, for a baby who's under duress of, still like, just here I am. Number one, duress of, preterm labor for 3.5 months, just no stress. She's in great shape. Is there any Caucasian in your family? I said, my husband's white. He goes, okay, baby's fine. I teased him about it for like a year. He said, I finally asked one day, what was going through your mind? He said, you don't understand. I was having a moment where I thought, okay, she's got some big black husband, and she gave birth to a white baby. I want to get out of here. This is not working. So, long story short is that I have never been the same color as my child. Although on this cruise she's getting darker by the minute because of all this stuff, which is great. But we've just never been the same color. She looks like me, but we're just not the same color. And so the other day I was going shopping for the kids for the cruise. And I had my daughter and my stepsons with me. And we were at Kohl's shopping for some, last minute, Minecraft shirts and swim trunks. And Zoe needed a belt for one of her pair of shorts. So I was giving them their last minute things. And the kids were just being, how kids are when you get to a cash register and they're tired. They're just being obnoxious and you want to sell them. And you're just... So they're just hopping all over the place. I'm like, you guys, stop it. They're just jumping around and talking and blah, 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 blah. And then we started noticing that Kohl's, their mannequins don't have heads. So they don't have heads, but they've got bodies. And then, like, instead of actual feet that you put your shoes on, they've got actual heels coming out of it, like stiletto heels. So as we were looking at this, like, wow, that's awful. What if I had to chop off your guys' heads? So it's funny, just being really whatever. And so the woman, we go up and we're next, and so the woman starts ringing us up, and I'm just being silly with the kids and whatever. I'm talking about, what if I chopped off your heads? She's looking at me, and looking at these kids, and whatever she is. So you taking care of these kids today? Yeah. So whose are they? It's like, they're mine. They're mine. She's like, oh, you're not their caretaker. I'm like, no, I'm not the babysitter. They're mine. And I wanted to say, because if they weren't, I would have abandoned them here. And gone to a bar. They're mine. Sorry, such a long story. So I got annoyed and tweeted,
What's it like when you visit? Because Will is originally from Utah. So what's it like? First of all, what's it like when the two of you walk around in Utah together?
Well, Will is a former Mormon. He's what he calls he calls it not any Mormon. But many of his family members are. I mean, actually, like he and his sister no longer practice, but his two brothers still do. And about half of his family still does, and they are very famous in Utah because his grandparents started a bunch of theater companies in Utah and in Glendale. So they're called the Hale Center Theater. So there's one still in Glendale, there's one in Arizona, and there's one in West Valley, Utah, and then there's one in Orem, Utah. And so he comes from this theater family. Also, Will did a lot of Mormon cinema. He was sort of like the Tom Cruise of Mormon cinema. So he's done all these movies, very famous Mormon movies. So he's known for that.
What's a Mormon movie? It's like promoting Mormonism?
Well, it's produced by Mormons, and they're fun stories. I mean, he did a really fun one actually about a Mormon boy band called Sons of Provo that is actually hysterical, because it's like a clueless Mormon boy band mockumentary. You should read it. It's actually hysterical. But he also was like, the star of one called The Singles War, and it's about someone who's trying to start their life over, and one about a missionary who's just returned home called The RMs, like, what do I do now that I'm returning missionary?
Was it a scandal that he was a star and that was like an ex-Mormon?
Yeah, there's some people that are praying very hard for his soul right now, that's for sure. So anyway, when we walk around Utah, he gets recognized all the time, much more than I do. I hardly ever get recognized.
His 5 Tonys aren't enough?
No, I mean, in Salt Lake City. I mean, there are people that recognize you there, but it's mainly they just flip out because they see Will Swenson and they get very excited.
Okay, so go back to you talking about your childhood. You grew up in Fresno. So what was your musical influences? Like my mom, you would see Hair when I was 4 years old.
Awesome.
And that's how I became obsessed with Broadway. How did you become obsessed with music?
Well, I come from a really musical family. Both of my grandmothers were piano teachers. My grandmother, my mom grew up in Virginia, and my mom's mom got her master's degree in music in like 1930 something, which was unheard of, a black woman getting, So anyway, so she was, and my mom's dad was the dean of St. Paul's College, which is an all-black college in Virginia. Anyway, so both my grandmothers were piano teachers, and then my dad was a musician, and then all of my dad's sisters were singers.
Wow.
And my dad's younger brother played the drums. So you kind of had no choice in my family. You just were musical. You just were born into it. It's just something that just was a part of who we were.
What kind of music was like, woo?
Well, it was everything, because my mom, there was classical, lots of classical music, and we were all forced to learn the piano. We had to, so we were playing like little Bach fugues and all that stuff really early age, because you just had a choice. And then gospel music, because my grandmother was also the organist at her church. So, talk about confused. My Sunday mornings, I was raised Episcopalian and African Methodist, because my dad was African Methodist and my mom was practicing Episcopalian. So I would spend the morning in Episcopalian church, very traditional, incense and the processional, and we were basically the only black people in the church, and all that. And then that would end at 10:30, and we'd go to West Fresno and go to Carter A&E Memorial Church with and that would go until 1 o'clock. So I spent my entire Sunday was spent in the church, and I was just very confused. And all I remember was that no one in my mom's church smiled and laughed and applauded, and everybody in my dad's church was loud and usually drunk by 1. Very different, sort of, whatever. So I had that, and then I got into Broadway just because I auditioned for this dinner theater when I was 9 years old.
So you weren't listening to Broadway beforehand?
No, well, a little bit. My mom was into it. She really had Porgy and Bess, and like Lena Horne, and we had the alto chorus line and all that stuff. My mom was, hip enough to what the biggest shows were, and so those albums would make their way into our house. But it wasn't until I auditioned at 9 that I started and got into this dinner theater, and then Broadway became very, very much a my life.
Did you watch the Tony Awards when you were a kid?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was talking to Sutton Foster, they do this series in Provincetown. I was talking to Sutton, and she said it's so weird that she would watch the Tony Awards, and then she's on the stage winning one, but she said it felt so odd because the kids look up to her now, but she doesn't actually know anything. But when she was a kid, she looked up to Pat the Pony, and maybe Pat the Pony didn't know anything.
Yeah.
So is it weird that you're on the reverse side now?
It is. There's, I think when you look, I did the same thing, and I watched Patti LuPone, and I watched, Carol Channing, and I watched all those. I watched, like Michael Jeter and all those people up there, and I remember thinking they have it all together.
That's what Sutton said.
They have it all together. They've got big, gorgeous penthouse apartments, and they're very rich, and they're all very thin, and their life is perfect, and they're stars, and they have private jets, and then you win one, and you're like, I'm a mess. What happened here? There's something, and then it's true, you do have to kind of go back and go, well, I guess maybe they don't, what I liked about it, when I had that realization, was sort of like, okay, they're human. We're all human. By the grace of God, or whatever you believe in, and luck and perseverance, you ended up there on that stage accepting that award, but they're human, you're human, and everybody else is human. There's an equalizer that happens, I know it did for me anyway.
What's been the progression of feelings? Because Lily Audra has won 5, which is fairly unheard of. Who else is it? Angela Lansbury won 5?
Yes.
And Julie Harris.
So, what's been the progression of feelings? Because Sutton said the first time she won, all she kept thinking was, I just don't want to trip. But she was so scared she was going to trip in her dress.
Yeah.
And then the second one, she didn't prepare a speech. What's been your progression of how you deal with it? And what it means to you?
The first one was such a blur, because it just all happened so quickly.
The first one was for Carousel, and she was super young. And what's crazy about that also is that being so young, it's like, when you're on Broadway, it's like Sutton Foster went from playing Sammy in Grease to then doing the chorus and Third Line Village. She went up and down, but then once you have a Tony Award, but that did a cabaret with Audra right after Carousel. And I remember Audra saying Carousel then closed, and she said, just because you have a Tony Award doesn't mean you have a job. And the point is that you then can't audition for an ensemble job after you have a Tony Award. Because right before Audra got Carousel, you auditioned for what big Broadway musical?
Beauty and the Beast.
Ensemble. And you were offered it?
No, I didn't get it.
So they were like, you're not up to snuff to be in the chorus. Well, we want to give you a 20 more because you're so bright. We're like the same year.
Yeah.
Now, what particular utensil were you up for?
I don't know.
So one is so young at 24, and then
Yeah,
that must have been the
blur.
biggest change.
Yeah, that was a blur, and just that one probably. I mean, none of them have ever like really hit me, but I don't think that one will ever hit me. You know what I mean?
Because you were so in it.
Yeah, it was just all such a magical sort of 6 months. You know, it was like I got the job in like November. We opened in March, and then the Tonys were like, what, May or June of that year? It all happened so fast. It was just, you know, I had no idea what was going on.
You never had a big part on Broadway before that.
No.
So your first role on Broadway, you got on a 24 for.
Yeah, so it was really sort of overwhelming. And then the second one, I didn't expect it. I don't think I won the drama desk, or I don't think I was nominated for a drama desk or an Outer Critics for Masterclass, so it was like, whatever. And then I don't think I was nominated, or I didn't win the drama desk for Ragtime. I wasn't nominated for an Outer Critics either, so Ragtime was sort of like, everybody was like, it's So, I didn't, once again, I just wasn't really expecting it. And then by the time Raisin in the Sun came, that was some years later, and I was, I was a mom by that point, and I was just having a good time with those people. So when that one happened, I think that one kind of, I sort of went, whoa, what's happening? This is a little crazy.
This was your fourth one.
Yeah. And then this last one, I think was probably the most emotional, because Zoe was so a part of it, and it had been such an emotional experience of doing Porgy and Bess, and everything with Sondheim and all the crap we went through trying to get there, and all we were doing was just trying to make the show the best thing that we could. So, and just having Will out there and the boys and Zoe, and we had such a great day. It was like we all went on a big date. That whole day is what it felt like for us. Everybody was dressed up, and so that's the one that feels the most real. Like, that's my first Tony, as far as I'm concerned. That's the one that feels the most real. So.
Well, what's so interesting is that Zoe was a part of that Tony, but did she ever see Porgy and Bess?
She did. She did.
And then what did she think of your? Now, how do you describe your role in that show?
Drug addicted hooker.
So did you have to sort of tell her beforehand, like,
I forgot to tell her before.
So she's like, a musical, yay!
I usually tell the story of my concert, but I'll tell it now. She was a little like, it was awkward. That's what she told me. She said it was awkward. She said, you did some awkward things. And I said, do you want to see it when it comes? This was when she saw the out-of-town trial. I said, you want to see when it comes to Broadway? She said, nope. She didn't. She would sit backstage, and I can't tell you how many times she'd be like, Mom, did you bring your earphones for my iPad? And what? She said, because you start screaming and I can't.
Singing. Okay, so go back, because you never really kind of had a public forum like in the New York Times or anything. Talk about the whole craziness of Porgy and Bess. If you don't know about this, Porgy and Bess was being revived, and there was like an interview with Diane Paulus directing it, and also Audra and other cast members, and it was in the New York Times, and Sondheim wrote this like 10-paragraph letter like about everything he was offended by with the revival. So the first thing that I will just bring up is that when you have a New York Times article, it's like you have tons of interview, and then they pick and choose the actual quotes that they're using. So talk about how, like, let's say a quote was taken out of context in your case.
Well, the writer who came and did the interview was with us for I think 2 to 3 days, and he was sitting in on rehearsals, and we were still blocking at the time and staging and trying to figure things out. There was one day rehearsal. It was actually the day that we were trying to figure out and block the big rape scene between Crown and Bess, and we had not figured it out yet. We literally were starting to block it that day. And I asked that he was there, but I said, can he leave rehearsal, please?
Why was it so physical and?
It's so awful and physical, and we were getting ready to, for the first time, figure out what it was going to be physically. It was like, you need, as actors, you need a safe space to do that, especially when you're gonna figure out how do we stage you raping me. So I didn't want a reporter there for that, because I didn't know what we were gonna do, what we were gonna find. I didn't know if I was gonna have an emotional reaction. So I was like, can you just sit this one out? There are many other rehearsals he can be a part of. And so, I don't know if he was miffed or not, but they had to speak to him, and he did leave, and then, whatever. And then, but he was with us for days, and spoke to me, I think, for at least, when we sat down and did our actual interviews, at least an hour or 45 minutes, and then would ask questions along the way, and the same thing with all the other actors and the other creators. And so he asked questions about, what have you always thought of Porgy and Bess? It's like, I've been obsessed with it since I was in college, and I have this one absolutely memorized, this production memorized. I'm obsessed with Leontine singing these notes here.
Those are different versions of it.
Yes, Cynthia Hayman is the person that one recording in Glyndebourne was the production that made me realize that I'll be able to survive my time at Juilliard, that there are classical things that I can do where I can be emotionally involved in, and maybe it is worth it trying to stick it up here. So I told him this entire backstory about how much I adore and love this show. So when he prints, they're looking for the most salacious stuff, so when he prints, the few things I said about how, with this, for me to do it, I know I need to figure out who she is and really get in. There's a lot of stuff that I've never quite understood, even with all the productions I've seen or studied. And so I want to figure out how to do that, and I feel like some parts are a little bit archetypal, and that's, a lot of people have thought that,
Just like stereotypical, remember?
Yeah, and a lot of, for years, blacks were like, I'm not going to do that show. It's degrading. We've gotten past that, Sidney Poitier is on record for saying that he was really upset that he ended up doing the movie of Porgy and Bess. It was just because he was under contract and had to do something, because we've come too far to have to play these kind of stereotypes, And so that was during the 60s and 50s when, there was a whole new sort of emergence of, of the civil rights movement and Black power and Black identification and self-identification. So, at any rate, the few quotes about that is the only things that made it into the article. And so when Sondheim went after me, and went after Diane, and went after Susan, he didn't have the full story at all, and he was accusing me of not having any sort of respect for this opera.
Meanwhile, you began the whole conversation saying how much. And also, I think, didn't he also say, well, what to you doesn't work about the show?
Yeah, what
so
doesn't work?
You're asking, but then you leave out the question, and then Audra goes like, what doesn't work is, so then it sounds like she's just out of nowhere dishing it.
Yeah.
And then part two, it's called The Gershwin's Porgy and Bess, just like right now it's called Roger and Hammerstein Cinderella. So Sondheim was in a rage. Then why not Dubose Hayward, who wrote the story?
Yeah, the story.
And then why is it called The Gershwins? How dare Diane Paulus called The Gershwin's Porgy and Bess?
Cut to, that's been the title of it for the past 20 years. And if you look back at some of the most famous productions in the past 20 years, and that's the Gershwin estates who did that, because Ira Gershwin wasn't getting enough credit, they felt, because everybody's like, it's George Gershwin's Porgy and Bess, it's George Gershwin's Porgy and Bess, and the Ira Gershwin estate's like, wait a minute, Ira wrote this too. And so they said, okay, from now on, any production that is going to be done of Porgy and Bess, you have to call it the Gershwin's Porgy and Bess.
So it's contractual.
It's
Sondheim's acting like it's Diane Paulus.
Yeah, and we're like, this is something that has been, so there was a lot of misinformation. Whatever, it was hard, it was really difficult, because once Stephen Sondheim's letter came out, we hadn't even opened yet, we hadn't even started previews yet. Backers for the show pulled out. We were in danger of not going to Broadway as a result of this. And
we got all this crazy anger.
People were furious. I some people were saying to me, who does she think she is, slamming the show? And other people saying, how dare she be a part of this production too. People were saying if she knew better, she wouldn't. I used to be a fan, but I'm not a fan anymore because you're choosing to do something like this, to desecrate this piece. So people would come to our production in Boston with Sondheim's letter in their hand.
Literally, physically.
Letter in their hand. He says here, we're like, well, that's interesting. Yeah, at that performance, there had been no performance yet, so he hadn't seen anything. The Philadelphia newspaper reviewed the first preview.
Reviewed it?
Reviewed our first preview.
You know, there's preview performances, critics are not allowed, and then finally they said the show is not ready to be reviewed, and then critics are allowed to come.
And that's usually in New York. On an out-of-town trial, you're supposed to sort of not review it at all.
Period.
You have the out-of-town trial, that's the whole point. All the papers came for the opening night, but the Philadelphia paper reviewed our first preview and printed that and said, here's what's wrong with this production. Like, wow, it was our first performance ever. Thanks for that. So there was just, which is why it ended up being so emotional for us when we finally did make it to Broadway. We finally did get the money together. We finally were established. We finally got up and running, and we did have fans, people who liked the show. And then to be recognized with the Best Revival for us was just, we felt like we had walked through fire as a group. I mean, it just made us closer, and it made us more focused on making the show the right one for us.
So now, why do you know, some people I know use Broadway as a stepping stone to television. Why do you continue to come back to Broadway? Because, Audra was starring on The Practice, right?
Private Practice.
Private Practice. By the way, the crazy thing is, I know Audra and Tay, and I literally had to witness them making out on screen. Was it as horrifying for you as it was for me?
Horrifying. This pisses off Tay when I say this, but Tay and I met during Carousel. He was in the ensemble of Carousel, so he just graduated from Syracuse. It was our first show, both of us. So I met Tay before Dina met Tay, so I met him when he was Tay. And goofy, and he still is, but he's also, Tay was a man. Whenever I see him here, I'm just like, whatever. So when they cast me in Private Practice, I was like, oh, I'm his ex-wife. Okay, that's fine, good.
No contact.
And so like the first couple, because he's just a brother to me, so the first couple of episodes of our show were like, wow, there doesn't seem to be any sex with anybody in the show. It's kind of interesting because it's a Shonda Rhimes show, and she's all about the salacious sex and who's going to do it where. I'm like, that's so funny. We'll wonder who will be the first people to do it on our show. Open up the script. Naomi and Sam do it on the conference room table of their office. And I remember seeing him just be like, no, we're divorced, no. It was horrifying. And everybody else is like, you're the luckiest woman in the world. Tay gets to take off his shirt and you get to make out with him. I'm like, it's disgusting. And he's like, why do you say it's disgusting? What's wrong with you? I'm like, because it's you. It's because you're my brother. And it's difficult. And
You didn't have a choice as an actor, right?
no, we didn't have a choice. It was difficult. We shot that scene at like 3 o'clock in the morning. It was a super long day. And actually at one point, one take, the director was not saying cut. And he was not saying cut. And then finally, Tay was like, come on, man, this is ridiculous. Say cut.
So talk about the craziness, because you decided to have Zoe stay in New York, her kid, to stay in school. So what was your life like when you were doing a television show in California and your kid was in New York?
It was awful. It was awful. At the time, when I said yes to Private Practice, my dad had died a month and a half before. I had just separated from my now ex-husband, and I was a bit at sea, to say the least. And so I said yes, not thinking that the show would make it, thinking that it would just, maybe, and also thinking that if it does, we'll see what happens. I'll maybe bring Zoe out. Well, it made it. But Zoe was firmly in her life in New York, and I realized that it'd be too stressful for her, for me to yank her from everything she knows. And so, especially with her parents newly separated, I thought this is just the wrong thing to do. So I decided that I would just fly back every weekend, and every time I had more than 2 days
Cross country.
off. So I accumulated in my 4 years of doing private practice, I think I counted, it was like 756,000 miles.
You been upgraded?
From time to time. But the cast would make fun of me because they'd literally be like, and cut, and there goes Audra. I'm going to be like O.J. Simpson running to the airport, leaping over things, and I had everybody at JFK knew me, the TSA officers knew me, and the ones in, especially for American Airlines, the ones in LA knew me as well. They'd be like, there goes Audra. And then at the end of holiday season, they'd be like, we were wondering where you were, because we're like, you know, the holidays are almost over. You gotta get back in there. What's going to happen with Naomi and Sam? Every once in a while when Zoe had vacations and stuff, she'd come out, but I came home every weekend, and if I had 2 days sometimes. So I was coming home at least 3 times a month, sometimes 4 times a month.
And now, what about, really it's interesting once you're a quote-unquote celebrity, like dealing with rumors and postings and stuff, and I know some people are like, she got fired.
That was fun too. Yeah, I got fired from private practice. They're like, well, I mean, I just wasn't used to that level of celebrity. I'm not like what Kate Walsh has to deal with or Tay has to deal with, where people dig through their garbage and take pictures of them as they're just trying to walk down. I don't have that at all, but people, were saying, first of all, well, she looked like a man anyway. And people saying, we think she's a drag queen, we think she's a drag queen. There was that in the first season.
I didn't know that.
Oh, that was fun.
So stupid.
I should have gone with it. I should have said, and then, what ended up happening with private practice is Shonda Rhimes is a great woman to work for, and because she is a single mom, single African-American mom, she and I had a lot in common. And after the 2nd season, I said, is there any way we can just reduce the amount of episodes I'm in, because this is really getting hard. And she said, yeah, absolutely. So she reduced me to, I think I did only 18 episodes, the 3rd season. And she said, at the end of the season, let me know how you're feeling, and if you need me to reduce it more, I will. She said, I don't like doing this, but I understand what you're going through, and we all see what you're going through, and we see the stress, and so we just want to make it comfortable for you. And so I reduced a little bit more at the end of that season. I said, if we can just go down a little bit more. And she said, okay. She said, but in December, you need to make a decision. She said, because the network is like, where is Naomi, what's going on? And so I said, okay, I promise you, by December I'll make a decision. She said, I want you for all 26. She said, but I understand if you feel like you can't. And if you can't, I totally understand, and I will let you go with love and understanding, and we won't kill off Naomi. We'll figure out something to do. She said, but I'm hoping you'll say you can do the full season and stay. And so I called her December, and I was like, I can't do it. I need to go. And so she did the sweetest thing. She sent Naomi off. For those who watched the episode, Naomi got married, or got proposed to, and her daughter got accepted to Columbia in New York. So she moved to New York to be with her daughter.
Oh, wow.
So that's when Naomi was sent off, which was just, and like, Shonda Rhimes hates her. I'm like, oh my God, Shonda Rhimes gave me the most beautiful Valentine. And so when I opened that script, I was like, oh my God. She's like, I told you we had to give you some kind of good going away. So, and it was beautiful what they did. And then she said, when we can, we'll try and bring you back. And so when we figured out the show was ending, she brought me back, and she was like, I'm going to find some good way to bring you back. And so she brought me back, and I ended up marrying Tay. Marrying Tay, and then for those who did see the final episode, Naomi finds out she's pregnant at the end of the episode. So I married Tay, and I guess we're having another TV baby. So
you want to stay on Broadway now? You want to stay in New York?
Yeah, if ever I do a TV show again, it has to be here. I did it, and it was educational. I learned a lot. I was afraid of being in front of the camera. It's a very different beast, and so I learned to not be afraid.
You've done so much TV before that.
No, but it was sporadic, so I never felt comfortable. I never felt like I I could get to, you know, performers know this. We talk about your power place, you know, like you get on stage, you know, stage performers, we get on stage and it's like, all right, I know where I am, I know what I'm doing, I know where center stage is, I know where this is, that is, I know what I'm doing. In a camera situation, it's like, well, is that camera on me? Are we close-ups, what's happening? And then you also don't have the energy that revs up to the scene. It's just like, you know, I mean, I think about all the love scenes I end up doing in private practice, and they've got, you know, tape coming at you, and this, and lights, and someone's doing this to your makeup, and someone's saying, boob the boob up, whatever, all this stuff. And then, next thing you know, they're like, and action. And you're like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, it's this terrible, sort of invasive thing that it's hard to find a place to then drop into, to, you know, find your objective and where you are and what's happening in the moment. You're shooting the last scene first and the first scene last. And so after 4 years of being on the show, I learned how to tune out and find a way to find a power place.
But don't go back to California.
Never.
Okay, so the last time I talk about it, so Audra's wedding, she's done all the music in her life. So Audra and Will got married in September? October. Okay, it was so amazing. So, you know, so I've been with James for, I guess, 6 years or something. His mother's right there. And James and I were like, kept putting up having a wedding. It's like, well, first we wanted it to be legal, and then our ADD hit. So like, we can't, like, no joke, but the thought of planning it was so overwhelming. So we were out of breakfast at Ferry, and James was like, let's just do City Hall and just essentially get it over with. That way we'll know that we can actually do it. So we went on our little calendar. We found like 4 days that I was free. We're like, get married on Monday, then we'll go on a little vacation. So we're like, great, it's all planned. So a week later, we went to Audra's wedding. Okay, it was the most amazing, beautiful. It was the back of her house. It was like stunning forest land. Like my screensaver on my computer is now your leaf. It was grass and beautiful fall leaves, perfectly placed. So stunning. All these like amazing friends were there, and like there was delicious like home foods. It was like sliders and like instead of
Because we're ghetto, we're not gonna have fancy food. We wanted burgers and hot dogs.
Okay, by the way, totally tricked me because I'm a vegetarian, so I'm like, fine, I can have the popcorn at least. Eat the popcorn, and as I leave, I was like, oh my god, it's the most amazing bacon popcorn.
Everything has to have bacon in it.
Anywho, so James and I were there and we're like, oh my god, we're making the biggest mistake doing City Hall because the whole thing about musicality, like her kids performed, like Zoe played, and the two children, it was so amazing.
He surprised me. I didn't know they were going to do that. It was a total surprise. The kids both of the boys played the piano, and Zoe plays the piano and the saxophone as well. So she played the sax, and the boys played the piano, and they sang "All You Need Is Love." And I lost it. I look awful in my wedding pictures. I'm just like, I picture this wedding dress and just, oh my god.
Oh my god, so on the sax was "All You Need Is Love." Good.
And I got everybody to sing along, and then the littlest one, so he's like, all together now.
It was so good. So I went up to Will after, I'm like, oh my god, James and I are going to get married at City Hall. I said, we're making the biggest mistake. Will was like, do it. Because the most incredibly anxiety-provoking 2 months of my life.
Yes.
Second of all, we're broke. so it totally convinced us. So wait, it wasn't an optimum to organize. Well, it was supposed to be a wedding of 10 people, and it became like,
Yeah, it just got bigger, you know, and it wasn't, and we really kept it to just, I mean, Seth and I have known each other, we argue about this all the time.
pretty much, let's say 20 years, a solid 20.
A solid 20, maybe 22.
Yes.
But we still can't figure out when we met. I say it's one day, he says it's another, but he's wrong and I'm right.
Oh, that's right. I have the best memory in the world. I'm known for it.
So,
Go
rest your
on.
voice.
And next month, next time next to the show. Okay. Can you imagine? Send an Audra McDonald on a conference table. We were horrified to say. Sure.
I can't speak.
Get used to it. Shonda wants to make out. Now I know what tea feels like. Disgust. It's all good.
At any rate, we were supposed to be just super, super close friends in our family, but then our families are kind of big, and then, you know, if you planned a wedding before, you invite one person, and then, well, how come this person isn't, and then how come this person, so it just, sort of spiraled, and then because we were doing it outside in our this yard that we just new lease, there was an old house on it, we knocked the house down, and we were trying to seed it in time to get grass to grow, but we had terrible rains last fall, and so we'd have seed, and then the rain would come and wash it all away, and then we'd just be left with mud again. We're like, we got 2 weeks to grow grass. How are we gonna do this? So I literally sent an email to everybody going, wear sneakers to my wedding.
Oh, passive aggressive. So she goes, you have to wear horrible shoes because there's so much mud everywhere. We all shut up in horrible sneakers, 8 Shields.
No,
yes.
I was not. They were awful espadrilles that I wore, but anyway, so it was
Passive aggressive.
it was,
Make us look awful.
and then the day of the wedding, it was like, starting to rain and then it would stop, and it would start to rain and then it would stop, and my hairdresser who was doing my hair for my wedding was driving to my house from New Jersey, and she hadn't shown up, and my makeup person was doing my makeup, and I'm like, where's John? And she was like, I'm like, what, Jill, what? What's up? She's like, she's really sick. I'm like, well, where is she? Because I was like, she said she was just crossing the Tappan Zee Bridge. She said, I think she's pulled over somewhere on the other side of the Tappan Zee Bridge throwing up. I'm like, oh my God, is she okay? Who's gonna do my I can't walk down the aisle with the wow. I can't do it. Yeah, I was gonna be like Angela Davis. Poor thing, she had gotten food poisoning and was trying to make her way to me, but she had to keep pulling over on the side of the road and throwing up. So I called, it sounds crazy, but I called Vanessa Williams, who is like a really, really good friend of mine, and she was also coming to the wedding, and I called Vanessa Williams, Vanessa Encyclopedia, because she knows everything. And she is from Westchester, so I called her, and she's like, girl, why are you calling me? You get married? And I'm like, I know. My hairdresser is dying somewhere on the side of the road, and while I was worried about her, well, who's going to do my hair? What should I do? And she's like, all right, I'll call you back. So within like 20 minutes, she found someone from Peekskill who was making their way down to the city. She said she'll stop by. And she's like, so don't worry, someone's going to be there. So by that point, Chiama had come, and she had made it to, my dresser had come, but she was so sick, they put her in another room, and she was literally just throwing up. My mom was trying to take care of her, and this woman showed up and started to do my hair, and then Chiama started to rally. So Chiama would do a couple like strands of my hair, go back and lay down, throw up if she had to, get back up and do my hair. This is all. I don't know what's happening. Yes,
I was like eating bacon popcorn.
Yeah, so it was, in that sense, it was completely stressful.
Oh my God, but it was so beautiful. We wound up going to City Hall and it all worked out. Okay, so so I have to wrap up. So you have to come to Mariah's show, which is super soon. That's
You guys, Mariah's voice, Jesus Christ. I get
just film this, man.
Oh no, she knows what I think of her voice, and the fact that it's the most amazing sound ever, and it just goes on forever.
It's like what note you want me to hit? It's just the most perfectly placed. Yeah.
I hate her a little bit.
Why not?
It's amazing.
Mariah. Part two, I keep saying this, but I have to say it. So this play that James wrote and Hunt wrote.
Beautiful play. It was gorgeous. I cried my eyes out at this show. It's also very funny. I laughed my tits off and then I cried.
So, ignore that. And so we're adding a show. We have a Sunday matinee, 1:30, and we worked out this whole deal if anyone wants to come in New York where you get like a discount, we store your luggage, and you also get a drink at Don't Your Mama's Cannibal right in the same block. So if you want to come, it's like right after we dock. We dock at like 8 a.m. on Sunday, and it's a 1:30 matinee.
So good.
Thank you, Audra. And Julie's in it, my kid's in it, and so is E. Plum. Jan Grady, anybody?
But she's amazing. She's unrecognizable and amazing. She's so funny. She's amazing in the show.
Yeah. And by the way, she's no longer 14. That part can be for a loop. Okay, so I'm gonna go practice the piano. You gotta come see Audra show tomorrow. Everyone, please help me thank 5-time Tony winner, Audra McDonald!